Give everyone a minute to get in real quick. Going, so we're gonna get started now. So we'll hop over to the Dixie for the daily. Oop, got to turn my computer off. There we go. All right, so over on the Dixie for the daily, we are pulling back slightly. We are seeing the rest of the crypto market pull back as well. So for now, we are seeing a bit of market correlation. So that is a little different than we have seen typically. Usually they are inversely related, meaning if Dixie goes up, crypto is likely going to come back down. So our stochastic is our double line here. Remember, we are using Market Cipher B edits and Market Cipher A free version. These are free within TradingView, which is also free like the information we're giving you. So we do have our stochastic, our double line. As our blue is above orange, we do have bullish strength, meaning we can see stochastic increase. Right now, our stochastic is starting to curl away. We do have that orange line rounding below, going toward the orange line. So if we do break that orange line, that RSI will continue to pull back. The RSI is a relative strength index that shows if we are overbought or oversold. As that RSI decreases, price action typically follows. So I would watch. If we continue with these red candles, we're likely going to drop down. But remember, the Dixie isn't going to trade over the weekend. It doesn't trade on the weekend. Only crypto does. Dixie is a stock. Stocks don't trade on weekends. We also have our VWAP, our yellow wave. We have a weak high here, so that could be positive for crypto. Because if we get that weak high and then we break for a lower low, then momentum will pull back. That blue wave, that then will cause our money flow, our green wave, to start to weaken as well. And if that money flow does continue to weaken, then it's very likely we would continue lower. So I would watch very close. So right now we do have that red dot as that VWAP is attempting to break bearish. Again, a break of the Dixie is good for crypto usually. Over on the 4-hour, we did reject that EMA level, and we are below our other EMA bands. If we continue below these EMA bands, we likely could continue lower. Our momentum is heavy in the bearish territory. Stochastic's pulling back. RSI is pulling back. That VWAP is in the bearish territory. We have consistent lows with rejections of the neutral. That does mean that our VWAP is currently favoring more bearish, causing that momentum and money flow to weaken and bringing price action lower. Over on the 2-hour here, we are overall descending, but we are in a bit of a descending channel. Remember, a descending channel can be a bullish pattern, so I would exercise caution on that, because if Dixie is going to break up, then crypto likely would end up breaking down. That could give us a retest of that EMA band right up there. So our stochastic does want to round away here though. RSI is starting to round, so watch that stochastic. If it makes another break to the downside, RSI likely will follow. That VWAP does have a lower high, and we are favoring with the bearish lows. So we do have more bearish favorability here. That is causing that momentum to remain bearish and that money flow to reject into this bearish territory. We keep coming up near that neutral and then rejecting away. So if that VWAP does not reverse, we're likely going to see that. Remember, no pattern's 100%. There would be a chance we can invalidate this rising channel. Thanks for joining us. How's it going, I can't say that. I think it's Falcretti. So how's it going? Thank you for joining us. If you're new to the channel, we are using our Market Cipher A and Market Cipher B here. So make sure you get these on your TradingView. This is free. You don't have to pay for these versions. But we will get into Bitcoin in a bit. We are again through the Dixie and other things. So next is going to be the total. And then we will cover things like the dominance and then Bitcoin. Obviously, we are big proponents of DCA, dollar cost average, buy in, buy out, scale in, and scale out. You don't want to time the market. It's more about time in the market rather than trying to time the market. So we are overall pulling back. We did reject this rising triangle. So that is bearish because that was a bullish pattern that wanted to bring us further. And now we are confirmed below it. there is a gap above us that we could end up snapping back up to fill. So I would watch for a push forward, but if we continue below this EMA level and continue below that 674 resistance, then we could see our total and our altcoins drop. Remember, total is representative of the market cap of all the altcoins besides Ethereum. Our stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back, that VWAP has lower lows. We did reject for a lower high as well, so we have a bearish trend there that's causing that momentum, our blue wave, to pull back. And that is also weakening that money flow. You can see it's staying in the red just below that zero, giving it that bearish strength. So if we continue to favor more bearish here, we will break down. Watch those lower time frames. Over on the 4-hour, we have a big consolidation after a breakdown. Remember, that does create a bear flag, so I would exercise caution because a bear flag from here could drop us even lower. So that could drop us down toward our golden pocket area, right at the top of that golden pocket. So I would exercise caution if we do end up breaking down away from this resistance area and we break that EMA. It's very likely we will push lower. Our stochastic is rounding, RSI is rounding. That VWAP is indecisive. You can see it's just zigzagging around. It's not bullish or bearish right now. Money flows as indecisive, and the momentum is heavy in the bearish territory. But that VWAP, if it snaps up, could bring that momentum up at any time. So I would watch more on the 1 and 2 hour still, just like last night. Over here on our 2 hour, our stochastic is starting to round away. RSI is pulling back. Our VWAP has lower highs. We do have a lower low as well, so if we break back into the bearish territory here, our momentum likely will round away, and our money flow could end up breaking down. Remember, as the lower time frames lead the higher time frames, that could cause us to push weaker on those higher time frames and give us a higher probability of our breakdown. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic is rounding away. We do have our orange crossing above blue, so that's a bearish cross. Watch as that could bring us lower. Our RSI does want to round away. Our VWAP is pulling back, money flow is pushing down, and the momentum is starting to round as well. So if that VWAP continues with these lower highs, we could see that momentum reject. Money flow would then remain bearish, and that could cause us to break down. So over on Bitcoin dominance for the daily, we'll just cover dominance. We do still have that gap below us, so we could end up dropping down and filling it. We have this red candle. If we zoom out a little bit further, we have our fixed range volume profile here. So our fixed range volume profile, you draw from your range to the top, so where you're consolidating to the top, and then you can end up getting this range. We do cover that in the Master in the Trade series, but we are just above that point of control, that blue line. If we continue seeing red candles here, we could break that blue line and see dominance slip. Remember, dominance can weaken while Bitcoin increases, as long as total increases ahead of Bitcoin, but right now the total doesn't look too good. Momentum is heavy in that bearish territory. That VWAP did break bullish, but I would just watch. If we get a lower high, we could still get some bearish strength. That could cause that momentum to pull back, and that money flow could continue to taper away, and then that would weaken our dominance. So we will jump to futures. Remember, futures does lead Bitcoin. It just trades at premium. We do have this symmetrical triangle. So Falcretti, we do have that 76K. Break up possibility, and we also have a 65.5K breakdown possibility. That's because a symmetrical triangle is a 50-50 pattern that can break you up or down. The break up is bigger than the breakdown because this is also a bull pendant where you get a symmetrical triangle after a run up. So our stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back. We're struggling to break our 69K and hold. We also can't break below the point of control. We need to hold above the 69K, in my opinion, if we're going to get some sustained run forward. Our momentum is pulling back, stochastic's pulling back, RSI is weakening, that VWAP is favoring bearish right now, so I would exercise caution, and the money flow is breaking down due to the VWAP pulling back. So again, if that VWAP continues to pull back here, momentum will continue to weaken, and we can see that money flow remain more bearish, so watch the lower time frames. We could end up seeing our breakdown possibility if we do not get bullish momentum and money flow on these lower time frames. Over on the 4 hour, our stochastic is dropping down. We do have that orange above blue, so that bearish cross is playing out, bringing RSI and price action lower. we do still have a slight gap above us at that 69.1, so that is a little bit of hope to run us forward. You can see we had this gap down that we are filling right now. So if we are able to sustain a bounce from here, we could run up to that top gap, break our 69K, and then that's where we would see our 76K. However, if we do end up dropping away over the next couple candles, then the bears could gain control and push us down to our 65.5. RSI is pulling back, momentum is weakening, that VWAP has lower lows with lower highs, so we have a bit of bearish trend. Sorry about that, print just finished, so we do have a bearish trend here. Momentum is breaking down due to that VWAP's bearish trend, and the money flow does want to pull back as well, so I would exercise caution here. Over on the 2-hour, RSI is pulling back. Our stochastic does want to bounce up, so if this blue can stay above orange, then our RSI could continue forward. Price action could make a bounce, but we do have a slight gap below us too, so ideally we would pull back, fill that lower gap, and then push up to fill our higher gap. Otherwise, if we don't fill the lower gap sooner rather than later, we could end up snapping up and then just rejecting back down. RSI does want to pull back. VWAP is favoring bearish, momentum's in the bearish territory, and the money flow is breaking down due to that VWAP favoring bearish and the momentum pulling back. So I would watch these lower time frames close. Right now they are more in the bearish territory. Over on the 1 hour, we have that gap a little clearer here, right at that 67.7. RSI does want to pull back. VWAP does want to round away. We also have another gap above us at that 68.6. So we have our 67.7 below us, our 68.6 above us, and then we do have a slight gap around that 69.4. So ideally, again, we would drop to our 300 EMA here, fill that lower gap, make a bounce, and then run up for our higher gaps, and hopefully get our break up. Right now, money flow is bearish. Our VWAP does have lower lows with a weakening high. So if we confirm a lower high, then we pull back into the bearish territory with consistent lows on this VWAP. We're likely going to see that breakdown scenario. You want to see if that VWAP can kind of push down toward the neutral without breaking while we kind of sell off, fill that gap, and then make a bounce with a higher low, or a very quick peak into the bearish territory. Otherwise, if we favor in the bearish territory from here, it's very likely we would reject and fill those gaps at a later date. So now over to Bitcoin, we're probably going to have very similar price action. It may not have the gaps because it doesn't really gap up and down as much as futures does. That's why it's nice to watch futures, because you'll get those little clips. Was going to grab some water, but I guess I left it in the other room. So our momentum is pulling back. Our stochastic is pushing down. We do have our orange above blue, and the blue does want to round. So if that blue wave can round above that orange, or line, sorry, if the blue line can round above the orange, then we could see a rebound. However, if this stochastic continues to favor bearishly here, our RSI will push down. VWAP is currently favoring bearish. We do have lower lows with a lower high, so we have a bearish trend there. That is causing momentum to weaken and the money flow to pull back. So I would exercise caution. We have a manipulation X here on the 4 hour that did drop us lower. Stochastic is dropping down. RSI is weakening. That momentum is in the bearish territory. That VWAP, our yellow wave, is favoring bearish, and the money flow does want to reject the neutral. So overall, we do have some bearish favor here that could end up breaking us lower if these lower time frames do not make a bounce. Over on the 2 hour, we did hit our 300 EMA, and we are trying to push up, but currently we're making a bit of a rounding top here. This rounding top could end up breaking us down if we're not careful, but the bullish scenario here would be this creating a descending channel, and then that descending channel hopefully pushing us up. Again, this would be a very loose channel as you don't have very much candle touches to the top and bottom right now, so I wouldn't bet on it right now. If we do bounce off that EMA, then we could see this happen. However, if we break through that EMA, then it's very likely we would continue lower and push to our 65.5. Our RSI is pulling back, stochastic's rounding away. That VWAP is favoring bearish. We did reject the neutral cross again, and we are pulling back. So right now, the bears do have some strong control. Momentum is pushing down, causing our money flow to remain bearish. So right now, the 2 hour doesn't look hopeful for a bounce. Over on the 1 hour, we hit our 300 EMA and we got a rejection. So hopefully you were watching for that. We did mention that if we do reject that EMA, there is a chance we could continue lower. Again, we have that symmetrical triangle breakdown area of that 65.5, and Bitcoin could trade a little lower than futures. Stochastic does want to round away. RSI is pulling back. We do have that orange above our blue on the stochastic, so that is a bearish cross that wants to bring the RSI and price action lower. Our momentum is in the bearish territory. We're rounding away with the red dot as that VWAP breaks back into the bearish territory, giving us lower highs with lower lows. If we continue to push down here and favor bearishly, momentum will pull back, money flow will pull back, and then the higher time frames will start to break down. Remember, we did say yesterday to watch for this kind of bearish breakdown to happen for several candles. Now it's been several candles, so this is the point where those higher time frames could start to push down. So over on graph for the daily, we are still within this descending channel, but as the rest of the market looks a little sketchy, we could end up breaking away from this. So don't get too excited. We are about halfway down. We did say look for a bounce around this red EMA. So if we do not get a bounce off this EMA or the next one, I would watch. If we don't bounce off this one, obviously this pattern would be invalidated. We need a bounce sooner rather than later here. Our momentum is pushing down. Stochastic is pushing down. That VWAP is favoring bearish with lower lows and lower highs, and the money flow is heavy in the red because of that VWAP and our momentum pushing down. So overall, the daily doesn't look positive, and if the lower time frames do not reverse, we likely could continue lower. Over on the 4-hour here, we did wick to our EMA and we got rejected. So if we cannot make a bounce and break that EMA over the next couple candles, it's very likely this pattern would be invalidated. RSI is pretty flat, stochastic's pulling back, so if that stochastic continues to pull back that double line, then our RSI, our red line, will continue to pull away, and then that will give the bears more strength to reject us lower away from that 300, that black EMA on our market cipher A. Remember, we're using market cipher B and market cipher A here. They're the free versions. Our momentum is in the bearish territory. We do have a double green dot that does want to push us up, but if that VWAP cannot break through the neutral, it's very likely we would continue lower from here. So you do want to watch the 1 and 2 hour pretty close, just like on everything else. Our VWAP does have lower highs here. We do want to round away. Stochastic is trying to run up. Our RSI is trying to pull back. So if the stochastic cannot maintain its run forward, then the RSI could start to bring price action lower. The VWAP does have a lower high, but it's kind of flattening out. So what you want to see here is that VWAP make a bounce. Otherwise, we could end up rejecting away. Our momentum is in the bearish territory. We do have that double green dot that does want to push us up, but the VWAP is struggling. So if the VWAP cannot sustain above the 0, then that momentum will remain bearish and money flow could continue to reject away, weakening those higher time frames. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic is starting to round away. We do have our orange trying to get above blue, so exercise caution as we're trying to get a bearish cross. RSI wants to pull back. Our VWAP is starting to round away with a lower high. If we get a lower or consistent low, we do have lower highs with lower lows already, so that could continue a bearish trend, which would cause momentum to round away. Then money flow could pull back, that blue wave and our red wave respectively, and then we could see price action drop down as well. Over on Ankr for the daily, we did push down to our 42.89 just like we warned you about. We are kind of hanging up here. We did try to break through it, but we managed to sustain. So if the rest of the market can make a bounce, then we may run up here. That could give us a higher low. Then we may be able to follow it with a higher high. That could create a bullish trend. But just watch if the lows and highs connect, because if they do, that would create a rising channel rather than a rising trend, and a rising channel does break you down. Our stochastic does want to round away. We do have our orange above blue, and it's pushing down, causing RSI and price action to drop. VWAP is in the bearish territory, that yellow wave, so as that VWAP favors bearish, our momentum, our blue wave is pulling back, and our money flow is currently red, pulling back into the bearish territory. So if that VWAP and momentum continue to push down, money flow will do the same. Over on the 4 hour, we do have a potential flag forming here as we consolidate after a breakdown. So remember, a bear flag is created when you consolidate from a breakdown. So we will draw that real quick to kind of map out where we could break down to. I will count just this peak here. I will not count this peak because we tried to kind of whipsaw around and price action really started after here for this, in my opinion. That could end up pulling us back, toward that 40.49. We'll get back to where we were. So that could end up pulling us back to that 40.49 and pushing us lower if we're not careful. Our stochastic is overall starting to get lower highs, and it looks like it wants to round away. If that does round away with this long upper shadow candle here, then RSI will break down. VWAP likely could reject, momentum would remain bearish, and our money flow could reject as well. So overall, our indicators look like they do want to pull away and start to favor more bearish. If the 1 and 2 hour cannot get bullish strength, it's very likely the bears will gain control. Over on the 2 hour here, we're starting to make a rounding top coming down to our support. So we need to bounce and hold above the support soon. Otherwise, if we keep zigzagging around, we could see that bearish breakdown. You can see we have 2 gaps above us, but we technically wicked up to them and tried to fill them. Now, wicks are just like gaps. They have an 80% probability to fill. So that does mean we could try to come back up and fill this, but we also have a gap below or a wick below us, so just exercise caution on that. Our RSI is starting to round away here, so stochastic does want to make a pullback. Our VWAP does have a higher high, so that is positive, and we have a higher low. So we are trying to make a bullish trend here on that VWAP. If that VWAP can sustain a bullish trend, momentum could run forward and our money flow could break bullish, but I would exercise caution and watch the 1 hour very close. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a manipulation X that does want to break us down after we jumped up to fill this gap here. So I would exercise caution. Right here on the 1 hour, we did technically fill this first gap right around that 433, but we do have a second gap above us at the 43.64. So we could end up jumping up, filling that, and then we have a third one right around that 44.60. So if we can bounce off the support level, we do have the potential to see a decent run up. That could create a double bottom, a drop, a rise, a drop, and then a rise, which could end up taking us higher. We can draw that out with our path tool here. So there's your drop, rise, drop, rise. Oops, I would connect this rise more up this way. Sorry about that. And then our neckline would be where our points would connect. And then you could, just got distracted. So our neckline could be where our points connect from our head. We could end up pushing up, trying to push to that 46.51. So that would be a revisit of where that other fourth gap is. So that could be bullish, but we do need bullish momentum to sustain and hold to run us forward here. Now our stochastic is starting to round away. RSI is pulling back. VWAP does want to push down. We do have a slightly lower high, so watch for lower lows here. If we get those lower lows, momentum will pull back, break into the bearish territory, and money flow will remain bearish, weakening those higher time frames. However, if we can bounce off the support in the next couple candles and shoot up, then we could see this double bottom. Right now, I'm saying the double bottom may not be as probable just because of this potential rounding top with a manipulation X, and we do have bearish money flow and VWAP, so I would exercise caution. Over on XRP for the daily, we do have a manipulation X that did try to break us down. We did break our value area low of our fixed range volume profile, so if we continue to get red candles here, we could end up breaking down, and then we may want to create a new volume profile due to this price action kind of staying in this range for quite so long. Our stochastic does want to pull back, RSI is pulling back, our momentum is starting to round away as that VWAP favors the bearish territory, causing the money flow to push down. So if that VWAP cannot break up on the lower time frames, we will see momentum continue to pull back, and that money flow will remain more bearish. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we came up toward that purple and red EMA and we got rejected with that long upper, but now we have a long lower shadow. So we kind of whipsawing around, not very decisive if we want to be bullish or bearish. What you want to see here is a strong green candle following this green candle that can engulf this red candle. If we can see that, we could have a chance to run forward, break our 52, and then push to our 54. However, if we start seeing some red candles, we likely will push down to the bottom of our channel. And if we do push down toward our bottom of our channel, remember that does give us that 44-cent breakdown target. So our stochastic is starting to round away. RSI is pretty flat. That VWAP is starting to favor bearish. Our highs are very weak, and we are pulling back for slightly lower lows. So I would watch if we cannot get back above that neutral and favor bullishly with strong waves, then we could see the bears continue to pull us back here. Our momentum is in the bearish territory due to that VWAP favoring more bearish, and if that does not reverse, money flow will continue to push down, and we will see that daily breakdown. Over on our 2-hour, we hit the 300 EMA, got rejected, and we are pulling back. So if you were watching that, you would have known we would have broken down from there. Stochastic does want to push up. RSI is pretty flat, but if the stochastic rounds away, that RSI could start to bring price action lower. So I would watch that. Stochastic does look a little iffy. It is starting to kind of trade sideways and looks like it could start to round. Our VWAP does have lower lows. We are attempting to break bullish, but right now, if we kind of zoom in, that wave is starting to slant away already. If that wave continues to slant, we will get a lower high with that lower low, and that could give us bearish strength to bring the momentum lower, causing money flow to reject and weakening those higher time frames. Over on our 1-hour here, stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is starting to round away. VWAP does want to pull back. Our momentum is heavy in the bearish territory and starting to curl. So if that VWAP breaks for a consistent low, we will have lower highs with consistent lows, giving us bearish favor, causing momentum to drop, weakening that money flow and weakening the higher time frames, giving us the potential to see our breakdown. Finally, last but not least, since no one requested any one-off coins, again, we can do any one-off coin anytime you would want, so just drop in chat. But our stochastic is pulling back. That's our double line, so we do have that orange above blue, which is that bearish cross. That is causing our RSI, our red line, to continue to pull back, which is causing price action to reject that black 300 EMA on our market cipher A. Remember, we're using market cipher B and A. These are free versions in TradingView, which is free as well. As we see those trend lower, our VWAP, our yellow wave, is starting to break through that zero, giving it bearish strength, causing momentum to round away. As that momentum rounds away, that blue wave, our red wave, our money flow, can continue to pull back, and we will see the bears gain more control. So overall, we could see a rejection from here. Over on the 4-hour, we did hit that 300 EMA several times, and we got rejected. Right now, we're on the bottom of our EMA band. If we cannot bounce here, it's very likely we will make that move to our 1618. RSI is pulling back. The stochastic does want to round away. VWAP does have a higher low. We are trying to break back bullish, so we need a higher high to create bullish trend. If we can create a bullish trend, momentum could push up, money flow would remain bullish, and that would give us the potential to retest that EMA. Over on our 2-hour, we are pulling back. We're trying to bounce off of our 300 EMA, so we need to solidify this bounce and continue up and break that Fibonacci area of our 1932. If we cannot hold above our EMA and break that band, we could stay within this channel that does want to kind of break us down. It did have a bull flag possibility, but now it's kind of overplayed because if you were to connect these tops, you do have more than 3 touches to the top. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you want to count that. And usually after 3, your channel plays out. Anything over that starts to kind of invalidate it. Our stochastic does want to push up. We are starting to round, so I would exercise caution. RSI is pulling back. Our VWAP has higher highs with higher lows, causing momentum to push up, so that is positive. But if that momentum and VWAP cannot maintain bullish favor here, we will see a pullback and a rejection. VWAP does want to cause that money flow to break, so I would exercise caution because if that money flow does break, we could see a pretty significant drop here. Over on our 1-hour, we do have a manipulation X that does want to bring us lower, but it's also a long lower shadow. So watch the next candle close. If the next candle is red, this could act as a hammer candle to drop us lower. However, if the next candle is green, it could act as a rounding bottom to help bounce us up. Our stochastic does want to round away. We do have that orange above blue. RSI is pulling back. Momentum is rounding as that VWAP wants to break down. It has a slightly lower high, and it does want to push back through that neutral. So if that VWAP breaks for a lower low, then momentum will reject, flipping back into the bearish territory and causing our money flow to pull back. So if that VWAP momentum and money flow break, then we will see the bears gain more control. Thank you for watching tonight's video. As